This is James, rich, powerful, handsome, and above all, a certified playboy. He didn't just avoid love, he mocked it. He bragged to his friends that no woman alive could ever win his heart. And many tried, the rich, the stunning, the smart, the submissive. Yet none succeeded. Until one day, the unthinkable happened. James, the man who didn't believe in love, would fall not for a celebrity, not for a billionaire's daughter, but for a homeless girl with nothing but a broken past. How? How did a girl with no shoes capture the heart of a man with everything? Well, sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn. Because what you're about to witness is not just a love story, it's a story of redemption, humility, and a love that broke every rule. And if you're just tuning into this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up so you never miss the powerful stories we bring your way. Let's get into it. James Okonkwo was everything a man could dream to be: young, wealthy, and dangerously handsome. From owning oil companies to having real estate across continents, James was one of the most influential billionaires in the country. But there was one thing he didn't believe in: love. To him, love was a scam, an illusion, a calculated lie designed by women to milk men dry. And he had every reason to think so. Since his rise to power, women had only ever seen his bank account. Many threw themselves at him: models, actresses, even politicians' daughters. But he'd mastered the art of pretending, using, and discarding them like last season's fashion. At 33, James was already a legend. His name alone made rooms fall silent. His signature black Bentley was more recognized than the presidential convoy. Yet beneath all that power and polish was a man whose heart had long been locked. By pain, by betrayal, and by bitter experience. He had been played once, a long time ago. Her name was Sei. Beautiful, soft-spoken, delicate. James was still climbing the ladder back then. Ambitious but not yet powerful. Sei had claimed she loved him, cheered him on, promised forever. Until one day James found her in bed with his mentor, the same man who had taught him everything about business. That night broke him. From then on, James built a fortress around his heart. He would never be the fool again. Never give a woman that kind of power. And so he became what Lagos women called the untouchable. Charming but cold, generous but guarded. He would take them on private jet dates to Zanzibar, shower them with designer gifts. But the moment they mentioned feelings or future, he'd cut them off without a second thought. They called him a playboy. He didn't care. They called him heartless. He agreed. Every Friday, a new girl entered his mansion. Every Sunday, she left, sometimes crying, sometimes angry, always confused. They tried everything. Some cooked fancy dishes, hoping food would win his heart. Others cleaned his entire mansion without being asked. One even got a tattoo of his name on her wrist. James, unimpressed, he believed all women were the same: strategic, transactional, and temporary. He often said to his closest friend Agu, "The only true love I've ever seen is between a woman and a credit alert." And Agu would laugh, though he'd sometimes wonder if James truly believed that, or if he was just afraid. One evening, James hosted a private rooftop party at his penthouse. Champagne flowed, the Lagos skyline sparkled behind them, and a popular singer was performing live. A supermodel leaned on James's shoulder, whispering sweet nothings in his ear. He smiled politely but looked away, bored, empty, disconnected. He stared into the night sky and asked himself a question he never thought he'd ask. What if I'm wrong? What if love actually exists? But that thought vanished as quickly as it came. He shrugged it off, stood up, and left the party without a word. By the next morning, he was back in his black suit, black sunglasses, and signature no-nonsense mood, headed to yet another boardroom to sign yet another multi-million-dollar deal. His world was predictable. His life was flawless, and his heart? Cold, untouched, unavailable. But fate had other plans, and love, real, raw, undeserved love, was about to show up in the most unexpected form. Not in heels, not in makeup, not with elegance or wealth or seduction, but barefoot, hungry, and forgotten by the world. A homeless girl named Amara, who would soon become the one thing James swore he'd never have: a reason to believe in love again. It was a scorching Tuesday afternoon. the kind of heat that made even air conditioners struggle for relevance. James Okonkwo was running late to a high-stakes investment meeting with foreign oil executives in Victoria Island. His driver was unavailable, so he decided to drive himself, something he rarely did. As his matte black Range Rover glided past the bustling Lagos streets, his tinted windows offered a perfect shield from the outside world. Traffic was tight but moving. His mind was already rehearsing numbers, figures, and negotiation angles, until he saw her. At first, it was a blur, then a stillness, a sharp contrast to the chaos around. She sat curled up by a cracked pavement on a dusty sidewalk in Yaba, her head bowed, knees hugged to her chest, her clothes torn, and her feet bare. A torn satchel lay beside her, no begging sign, no extended hand, no noise, just silence and sadness. James's eyes locked on her for no more than 3 seconds. But something invisible, something unsettling, hit him in the chest. He gripped the steering wheel tighter. The car kept moving, but his gaze lingered in the rearview mirror. The further he drove, the more distant she became. But his heartbeat didn't settle. It wasn't her beauty. She wasn't dolled up. Her hair was messy, her face dull with dust and fatigue. But there was a rawness, a depth in her posture, as though she carried 1,000 silent stories on her back. 5 minutes passed. His chest tightened. Who was she? He muttered, annoyed by his own distraction. He rubbed his temples and shook his head. Focus, James, focus. But his thoughts betrayed him. The number crunching disappeared. The investor profiles blurred. All that remained in his mind was the image of a lonely girl on a dirty sidewalk. He slammed the brakes. Cars behind him honked in frustration. Without thinking twice, he turned the car around, back through the same road, same shops, same noise, same dust. He reached the same spot. She was gone. James parked and got out, scanning the area. His designer shoes tapped the broken pavement as he walked from stall to stall. "Excuse me," he asked a meat seller. "There was a girl sitting right here not long ago, young, homeless looking. Have you seen her?" The man looked around casually. "Oga, plenty girls, they walk up for here. Oh, I don't notice anyone like that." He asked a few more people, a kiki driver, a recharge card vendor. No one knew anything. To them, she was just another shadow in the streets of Lagos. Frustrated, James stood by his car, hands on hips, trying to shake off the gnawing ache in his chest. "Why do I even care?" he muttered. He got back into the Range Rover and resumed his journey to the meeting. But his mind was no longer in the present. Even as he walked into the glass boardroom filled with suits and ties, the voice of one of the executives drowned under the image in his head. A girl, curled up, alone, and invisible to the world. His assistant nudged him slightly during the meeting. "Sir, they're waiting for your response on the pricing model." James blinked. "Oh, right, sorry, I need a moment." He excused himself and walked into the bathroom. Staring at himself in the mirror, he whispered, "What is wrong with you, James? You've seen hundreds of women. Why this one? Why can't you let her go?" He didn't have the answer. All he knew was he needed to see her again. Not tomorrow, not next week, tonight. That night, James didn't sleep. He tossed, turned, stared at the ceiling. Every time he closed his eyes, her face flashed before him, tired, fragile, forgotten. At 5 a.m., he couldn't take it anymore. He slipped on a hoodie, grabbed his car keys, and drove back to that same street. This time, he didn't care about being recognized. He parked across the road and waited. Minutes passed, then an hour, then 2. Just as he was about to give up, he saw her. She walked slowly down the street, arms folded tight against her chest, eyes downcast. Same satchel, same clothes. James's heart skipped. He stepped out of his car and walked toward her, slowly, cautiously. "Hey," he said gently. She froze. He took a step closer. "I saw you here yesterday, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." She looked up slowly. Her eyes were sunken but clear, cautious but not afraid. "What's your name?" James asked. She hesitated. "Amara." "Amara," she repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. James stood still. For a moment, he forgot who he was, forgot the suit, the cars, the headlines, the power. In front of him wasn't just a homeless girl. There was something about her voice, her posture, her restraint that made her feel different. She hugged herself tighter as if bracing for judgment. I don't want trouble, she said softly. You're not in trouble, James replied, stepping back to give her space. I I wanted to talk. That's all. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Why? He paused. How was he supposed to explain the sleepless night, the ache in his chest, the way her image had refused to leave his head? I don't know, he said honestly. I saw you and I couldn't forget. Amar looked away, adjusting the strap of her worn-out satchel. Her sandals were broken, her toes bruised. Her dignity, however, stood unshaken. James cleared his throat. Where do you stay? She laughed bitterly. Wherever the rain doesn't find me. Do you have any family? Her smile disappeared. I don't want to talk about that, she said quickly. Please. James nodded. Okay, I respect that. A silence settled between them. For the first time in years, James didn't feel in control. He wasn't the boss here. He wasn't the one with the power. She was. Her silence commanded something from him, respect, patience, even vulnerability. He tried again. Are you hungry? There's a small cafe nearby, just breakfast. I promise you'll be safe. She stared at him, unsure whether to trust this stranger in designer shoes and perfect posture. What's in it for you? She asked. James blinked. Nothing? That's hard to believe. He gave a sad smile. I don't blame you. She studied his face for a moment longer. There was no flirtation in his tone, no manipulation, just sincerity, worn-out, clumsy sincerity. All right, she said slowly, but only if it's close by. I don't like going far with people I don't know. Fair enough. He opened the car door for her. She hesitated, then slid in cautiously, clutching her satchel tight. They drove in silence to a quiet, modest bar and cafe just a few streets away. James chose a table near the back where there was less attention. He waved off the stares from the waiters, most of whom had never seen him walk in with anyone, let alone a homeless girl. He didn't care. The waitress approached. James ordered tea and bread for both of them. Amara sat stiffly, her eyes darting around the room like a soldier behind enemy lines. When the tea came, she took a small sip and immediately looked up at him. Why are you doing this? She asked. He looked at her, genuinely searching for the answer within himself. I honestly don't know. I feel like I was meant to. She didn't respond. After a long pause, she whispered, Do you own this cafe or something? He chuckled. No, just a customer today. She looked at him suspiciously. You dress like someone who owns half the city. James smiled and looked down. It was the first genuine smile he'd worn in weeks. When they finished the tea, she set her cup down gently and said, I appreciate this, truly, but I don't like free things. I don't want to feel like I owe anybody anything. You don't owe me anything, James said, but I still want to earn something, she replied quickly. Please, if you can just give me a job, I can cook, I can clean, I can even water plants. I don't care. I need a reason to wake up every morning. I don't want to be pitied. James stared at her. There was no manipulation in her eyes, no trace of a woman trying to seduce or impress. She wasn't here to beg. She was asking for dignity. A slow warmth spread in his chest. I own a few places, he said carefully. I can offer you something. It's not much, but I'd like you to come work for me. Her eyes widened. Seriously? He nodded. Let's start with cooking. I'll pay you $300 every month. You'll live in a safe house. No one will disturb you. You'll be treated with respect. She blinked, unsure if she heard him right. $300? Yes. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the cup just to ground herself. I've not earned that kind of money before. Thank you. I don't even know your name. He extended his hand. James. Her hand met his gently. Thank you, James. He gave a reassuring nod. In that simple touch, something shifted. Neither of them realized it yet, but the cold billionaire and the homeless girl had just stepped into each other's worlds, and nothing would ever be the same again. James didn't take Amara to his main mansion in Banana Island. That place was too exposed, too loud. Instead, he drove her to a modest but elegant guest house tucked away in Ikoyi. Security was tight, but the home itself was quiet, clean, and fully furnished. As the Range Rover pulled into the compound, Amara stared in disbelief. The house was bigger than any building she'd entered in years. This place is huge, she muttered. her fingers wrapped around her tattered satchel. James smiled. You'll get used to it. A middle-aged woman named Clara, the property caretaker, came out and greeted them with a slight bow. Good evening, sir. Clara, meet Amara, James said. She'll be staying here and working as my personal cook. Please make sure she gets everything she needs. Clara nodded with a warm smile. Welcome, my dear. Amara stood frozen at the doorstep, uncertain whether to step in with her dust-covered slippers. James noticed. You can come in, he said gently. This is your home now. The words hit Amara like a wave. She hadn't heard the word home used for her in years. Inside, Clara showed her around. A well-equipped kitchen, 2 guest rooms, and a small balcony with a view of the garden. Amara stood in the kitchen for a long time, running her hands over the clean marble counter like it was a dream. I'll cook something for you now, she said suddenly. James raised a brow. Are you sure? You've barely rested. I've been resting for months, sir. I want to earn this. He nodded. Okay then, surprise me. She smiled, barely, but enough to soften the room, and got to work. Within an hour, the aroma of seasoned tomato stew filled the house. The scent of jollof rice, fried plantain, and grilled fish made James step out of the study and glance toward the kitchen. You did all this already? Amara was plating the food with care. Yes, I hope it's okay. James sat at the small dining table and took his first bite. He paused, then another, then slowly leaned back in his chair, surprised. This is incredible, he said, chewing slowly. Amara smiled. I'm glad. I've eaten in 5-star restaurants all over the world, James said. But this tastes like home, like something my mother would have made. Amara blinked. That's the best compliment anyone's ever given me. From that moment, her role as the cook was sealed. But she became so much more. She didn't just prepare meals, she organized the spice rack alphabetically. She polished the cutlery until they reflected like mirrors. She cleaned the house top to bottom without being asked. She even sewed a small tear on one of James's expensive curtains, quietly, without fuss. James began to notice the little things. How she greeted him in the morning with her eyes, not just her mouth. How she sang softly to herself while sweeping. How she never touched anything that didn't belong to her. No curiosity, no greed. And unlike the many women who had tried so hard to impress him before, Amara wasn't trying at all. That's what made it dangerous. One evening, James came home late from a long day of board meetings. He was tired, mentally drained, and irritable. But the moment he stepped into the house, the smell of a goosey soup filled his senses. Amara appeared in the hallway holding a tray. I thought you might be hungry, she said quietly. He stared at her. No woman had ever thought of his stomach without being paid extra or asked to do so. Thank you, he said. You are always one step ahead. She smiled, just trying to keep the job. But James knew this wasn't about the job. Another time, he caught her kneeling by the flower bed in the garden, whispering to the plants as she watered them. He stood at the window, watching her without knowing why. Something inside him stirred, a warmth, a danger. He shook his head and walked away. This is just gratitude, he told himself. She's just different, that's all. But deep down, a battle had begun in his chest. The man who swore no woman could ever touch his heart was beginning to lose the fight, and he didn't even know it yet. It started with the little things. James Okonkwo, the billionaire playboy who could fly to Dubai just to have lunch and be back in time for dinner, found himself looking forward to breakfast in a quiet guest house in Ikoyi just to hear Amara say, "Good morning." He'd sit at the dining table with files in front of him, pretending to read, but secretly watching the way she moved in the kitchen, the way she folded dish towels so neatly, like each crease mattered, the way she hummed softly when she didn't know anyone was listening, the way she always said thank you for things most people ignored. James started coming home earlier. He canceled unnecessary meetings. He even stopped entertaining the idea of bringing other women around. His mansion in Banana Island gathered dust. But he didn't care. Something was happening, and he didn't like it, because it wasn't supposed to happen. One afternoon, as Amara served him a bowl of pepper soup, James blurted out, "You don't have to wear that same gown every day, you know. I can give you money to buy more." She froze, surprised. I'm okay, sir. This one still works. But it's torn at the sleeve." She looked at it briefly and smiled. "Then I'll stitch it tonight." He wanted to say more, offer her a wardrobe, take her shopping, buy her something expensive, but he bit his tongue. She was proud. He respected that. But why was he noticing her sleeve? Why did it bother him? Why did she bother him? Later that night, he stood in his study holding a glass of wine, staring out the window, thinking about her voice, her laugh, her resilience. He didn't realize how long he'd been standing there until Clara, the caretaker, walked past him and muttered with a smile, "Sir, you've been standing there for 30 minutes. She really must be special." James turned. "What?" Clara chuckled. "I'm not blind, sir. I see how you look at her." James frowned. "She's just different." "Exactly what Clara said. That's the danger." The next morning, Amara served him akara and pap. As she set the tray down, James did something that shocked them both. He pulled out a second chair and said, "Sit. Let's eat together." Amara blinked. "Sir?" "I'm not asking. I'm inviting." She shifted uneasily. I can't. You're my boss. I'm just your cook. It wouldn't be right." James looked her straight in the eyes. You're more than that." The words slipped out before he could stop them. A long silence followed. Finally, Amara nodded slowly and sat, nervously, like someone entering a forbidden room. They ate in silence at first. Then she cracked a soft joke about the pap being too thick. He laughed genuinely for the first time in days. Their eyes met. It lingered. Then she quickly looked away. That night, James couldn't sleep. He tossed. He turned. He scrolled through his phone trying to distract himself. Models messaged him. Socialites sent photos. His phone was buzzing. But the only woman he wanted to talk to was asleep down the hallway. The next day, James met with his best friend, Agu, at his private lounge. Agu, a rugged businessman with a sharp tongue and a soft heart, sipped from his drink and listened as James finally confessed. "Bro, I think I'm falling for her," James said. Agu nearly choked. "Wait, what?" "I don't know how or when it started, but it's there, and it's real." Agu stared at him. "You mean Amara, the cook?" James nodded slowly. "Yes." Agu laughed loud and hard. "This life is sweet." James Okonkwo, the heartbreaker of Lagos, caught feelings for his own cook. "My brother, wonders shall never end." "It's not funny," James said, rubbing his face. Agu calmed down and leaned closer. "All right, let me ask you this. Do you trust her?" James nodded. "With my life." "Does she make you feel peace?" He nodded again. "Like I'm not pretending." Agu smiled. "Then go for her. Don't let pride or class get in the way. If your heart beats for her, pursue her. She might be a cook today, but you can make her a queen tomorrow." Those words echoed in James's mind as he drove home that night. She might be a cook today, but she was already something more to him. More than a cook, more than a housekeeper, more than he had ever expected. She was the first woman who didn't chase him. And yet, somehow, she had caught his heart completely. James Okonkwo had never been this nervous in his life. And that said a lot for a man who once negotiated a $120 million oil deal in front of 17 foreign investors without blinking. But this was different. This was Amara. He paced the length of his bedroom, holding a small velvet box in his hand. Inside it sat a sparkling diamond ring, custom-made, elegant but simple. Not too flashy, though, just like her. He had spent the past week battling with himself. Every time he saw her in the kitchen, every time he passed her in the hallway, he knew. And now he was in love. And not the kind of love you fake for social media or hide behind wealth. This was real, raw, vulnerable. The kind of love that made you want to protect someone more than you wanted to protect yourself. She had no idea what she meant to him now. But tonight, he'd show her. Earlier that day, James had visited a quiet boutique in Lekki, a luxury designer showroom that usually only opened by appointment. He didn't tell them who the dress was for, only that he needed something special, something elegant, something unforgettable. They showed him 10 gowns. He picked the 11th, a long silk evening dress, royal blue, with subtle beadwork and a soft flow. When he held it up, he could already see Amar in it. He had the driver deliver it to the guest house with a simple note. "Wear this tonight. I want to show you something." At exactly 7:00 p.m., Amara stepped out of her room, and James forgot how to breathe. Her natural hair was wrapped in a soft updo. Her skin glowed like bronze under warm lights. And the gown, it didn't just fit, it embraced her. She looked like royalty, yet she stood there nervously, holding her hands together. Sir, I don't think I should wear this. I don't feel like myself. James walked up to her slowly, his heart pounding. You look like a dream. She looked down. Where are we going? Somewhere special, he replied. He opened the car door for her, and together they drove through the streets of Lagos until they arrived at a rooftop terrace overlooking the lagoon. Quiet, candlelit, and completely private. It was decorated in soft fairy lights, with petals scattered across the floor and a violinist playing in the corner. Amara gasped softly. This place, it's beautiful. James looked at her. So are you. They sat across from each other at a small round table. Waiters brought a quiet dinner of roasted chicken, mashed yam, and spicy sauce, Amara's favorite, though she didn't remember ever telling him that. As they ate, James barely touched his food. His eyes never left her face. Amara was nervous. Her heart was racing. She didn't understand what was happening, but somewhere deep in her, she knew this was no ordinary night. When dessert came, James stood up, walked around to her side, and gently reached for her hand. Amara, he said. She looked up slowly. I brought you here tonight because I need you to know something. I've been a man who didn't believe in love. I thought all women wanted was my wealth. I never trusted anyone. I never opened my heart. He paused. Until you. Amara's eyes widened slightly. You didn't try to impress me. You didn't even want anything from me. You just were yourself, honest, kind, strong. And because of that, you broke every wall I've built. He slowly dropped to one knee. Amara covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. From the moment you came into my life, something changed. I laughed again. I found peace, I found purpose, and I found love. He opened the box. Amara, I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you've lost. All I care about is who you are and who I want to be with for the rest of my life. He took a deep breath. Will you marry me? Amara stared at him, frozen. 1,000 thoughts ran through her head. Fear, surprise, hope. Me, she whispered. You want to marry me? Yes. She shook her head, overwhelmed. But I'm nobody. No, James interrupted gently. You are everything. Silence fell for a moment. Then slowly, with trembling hands, she nodded. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. James stood, slipped the ring on her finger, and wrapped her in the most sincere embrace of his life. And just like that, the billionaire who said no woman could ever capture his heart was no longer his own man. He belonged to her. Heart, soul, and everything in between. The news didn't make it to the tabloids. Not a single paparazzi showed up. There were no headlines, no press, no trending hashtags, because James Okonkwo didn't want the world to witness this moment. This wasn't for them. This was for her. For Amara, the girl who had once slept on the street, the girl who made him believe in something deeper than power, wealth, or pleasure. And today, she was becoming his wife. The wedding took place at a serene private garden estate just outside Lagos, surrounded by tall palm trees, white orchids, and a small circle of carefully chosen guests. Only 10 people were invited. Agu, Clara, a few loyal staff, and 2 security heads James trusted with his life. No noise, no extravagance, just a sacred vow. Amara wore a flowing white gown, delicate and ethereal, like it had been stitched from the schema. Her hair was styled in soft curls, adorned with a simple silver clip. She looked nothing like the girl James had found by the roadside weeks ago. She looked like royalty. James stood waiting in a custom navy blue suit. His heart raced as she walked towards him, every step like a heartbeat echoing through the quiet garden. He had never felt fear like this before. Not during billion-dollar deals, not during hostile business takeovers. But now, standing in front of her, he felt like a man stripped bare, exposed to something stronger than himself. Love. The officiant spoke softly, blessing the union. Birds chirped in the distance. The breeze swayed the petals. And then it was time for vows. James turned to Amara and held her hands, his voice low, steady, but filled with emotion. I never believed in love. Not until I met you. I thought I was protecting myself, but the truth is I was just hiding. And then you walked into my life, not begging, not scheming, not chasing, just being you, and somehow that changed everything." He paused, swallowed. "You made me human again. You made me feel. And now I stand here not as a billionaire, not as a man of influence, but as someone who is completely, helplessly in love with you." Tears slid down Amar's cheeks. James gently wiped them with his thumb. "And I promise, with everything I have, with every resource, every breath, every ounce of strength, I will protect you. I will honor you. And I will fight for you." He looked her in the eyes. "No matter what your past holds, no matter who tries to bring you down, you are my future, and I swear, on my name, on my legacy, on my soul, I will stand by you until my last day." Amara was weeping now, silently. She had never heard anyone speak about her like this, let alone to her. She placed her trembling hand on his chest. "And I promise to love you with the heart of someone who's known pain, but still chooses joy. I promise to be your peace, to honor the trust you've given me, and to never take for granted the miracle that this moment is." They exchanged rings, and just like that, what the world would have called impossible became destiny. The reception was quiet, elegant, and soaked in laughter. Agu gave a funny speech about how he never thought James would fall for anyone, let alone his cook. Everyone laughed, even Amara, but James just kept staring at her. She was glowing, not just from the makeup or the lights, but from something deep inside. He saw freedom in her smile, he saw healing in her eyes, and it crushed him to know there was still so much of her story he didn't understand. That night, as they returned to the main house, James walked into their room and found Amara standing quietly by the window, still in her wedding gown. The moonlight wrapped around her like a veil. He walked up to her slowly. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. Then she turned to him, eyes serious. "You asked me once who I really was," she said quietly. "I think it's time I told you the truth." James's heart stilled. He nodded. "Tell me." Amara sat gently on the edge of the bed, holding his hand. "Everything you see now is only half of my story. The rest is darker, sadder, but I need you to hear it." James knelt beside her. "I'm ready." And so she began. James knelt beside her, still in his wedding suit, his hand wrapped around hers. Amara had been silent for several seconds now, as if gathering the courage to dig into a wound she had buried for years. Then with trembling lips, she spoke. "You've always wanted to know who I really am. I'll tell you tonight." James didn't interrupt. "My full name is Amara Nwachukwu. I was born in Enugu, into wealth. My father, Chief Boniface Nwachukwu, was the founder and CEO of Nwachukwu Group of Companies, a business empire that spanned construction, import-export, and agriculture. He was respected, admired. People used to say I was the daughter of a king." Her voice cracked. James's hand tightened around hers. "I had everything. The best schools, the best teachers, vacations abroad. But I was never arrogant. I loved helping people. I thought my world was perfect." She looked away, staring at the floor. "Until the car crash." James felt a chill crawl down his back. "My parents were on their way to a wedding. I was supposed to go with them, but I stayed behind because I had malaria. I never got to say goodbye." Her breath caught in her throat, and she wiped a tear silently. "They said it was a brake failure. But sometimes I wonder if it wasn't something more." She paused, clenching her fists. "My uncle, my father's younger brother, was next in line on the board. He was never satisfied with his share. He used to argue with my dad. He said the company belonged to the bloodline, not just one man. When my parents died, I thought he'd take care of me." She shook her head slowly. "I was wrong." James felt his jaw tighten. He came to the house the day after the funeral. He brought his lawyers. He told me everything now belonged to him. I was 17, still grieving, still weak. And then he told me I had to leave. James's voice finally escaped him. "He kicked you out of your own house?" "Worse," she whispered. "He told me if I ever set foot near the company again, I'd be arrested. He said I was bad luck, that I brought death. He called me a curse." A heavy silence filled the room. Amara continued, her voice breaking. I had nowhere to go, no money, no access to any bank account. They locked everything. The staff disappeared. The house was sold. I slept in bus parks. I begged for food. I was almost kidnapped twice. I stopped trusting people. I stopped talking. She turned to James, her eyes filled with raw pain. That was my life. Until you. James sat back, stunned. The girl he met on the street was not just a victim of poverty. She was a fallen princess, cast out by her own blood, robbed of everything, and still standing, still cooking, still smiling, still singing while she swept. I don't tell this story to anyone, she added, not because I'm ashamed, but because it hurts too much to relive it. James rose to his feet slowly, then sat beside her on the bed. I had no idea, he said softly. No idea what you've been through. She nodded gently. I didn't want you to marry me out of pity. I wanted you to see me, as I am, not for what I had or what I lost. James took her face in his hands. I see you, Amara. Not the pain, not the past, you. Tears rolled freely down her cheeks. Then James stood up and walked to the balcony. He looked out into the night for a long moment. When he turned around, his eyes were blazing with resolve. I swear on everything I have, I will fight for you. Amara looked up, confused. What do you mean? I mean, we're going after him. Your uncle. We're getting your name back. Your company. Your father's legacy. Everything. Her eyes widened. James, he's dangerous. He'll try to destroy you. James stepped forward. He can try. He took her hands again. You are my wife, and if I let this go, if I let your pain remain buried while I walk around with billions in my pocket, then I've failed you. He looked her dead in the eye. I am James Okonkwo. I don't lose battles, and this is the most important battle of my life. Amara's lips quivered. But why would you risk everything? Because loving you isn't just about flowers and dinners and fairy tale weddings. It's about justice. It's about restoration. It's about making the world know that no one throws Amara Nwachukwu into the street and gets away with it. She sobbed into his chest, and he held her like a shield, solid, firm, unbreakable. That night, something changed. Amara wasn't just a homeless girl anymore, and James wasn't just a man in love. Together, they became a force. A storm was coming, and this time, the girl they left to die was returning. Not just with hope, but with fire. We hope you truly enjoyed this unforgettable story. Now it's your turn. What touched you the most? Drop your thoughts, lessons, or favorite moments in the comments section below. We're always excited to read your feedback. And tell us, should we make a part 2? Would you love to see what happens next as James fights for Amara's justice? Let us know. But that's not all. Another powerful, emotional, and life-changing story is dropping in just a few days. So make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and be the first to watch when it drops. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video and share it with your family and friends. You never know who might need the message today. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you richly.